Non-stop rock talk with Tyson Bryden. Welcome to Non-stop rock talk. This is your host, Tyson Bryden. It gives me great pleasure to welcome back singer David Reece. David, welcome back once again.
Hello, Mr. Tyson. Great to be with you again.
Yes. I mean, it's been a couple months, and as we said, we were going to do this, and today, I mean, the album is released, which is entitled, which is right in my hand, Rapid Fire Succesion on Target Part 2, which I have right here.
Yep.
And so here we are. We're gonna discuss. There's 2 acts on the album, so we're gonna discuss Act 1 today. But before we get to that, I just want to chime in on this album. When we spoke back in the summer, it was obvious how excited you were with the release. At that time, only the first single, Bullet Train, had surfaced. But when I put on the album, I too was excited because it's a great album. From your perspective, now that it's out, is it surreal to think that after all these years that On Target 2 is finally here?
Yeah, I mean, if I set my mind to do something, I go for it. And I was driven to, I've done in the interim a few Bangalore Choir records over the years, and in all honesty, like Cadence, there's 2 or 3 good ones, the rest is filler. And then I had Metaphor, same story. And then the live album, of course, which was cool because I had a couple of original guys on that when we played Firefest 2010. And then I did Center Mass. And there's like 1 or 2 that I really liked that were Bangalore Choir-ish, I should say. But the rest, in my honest, humble opinion, were not hitting the mark. So what inspired me to do it was being a solo artist for a long time. I had never played France. I don't know if we discussed this last time. In all the countries I've done, I've seen France from across the highway. But I always say, why aren't we playing France? I want to play Paris. I want to play Normandy. I want to do, Nice. We don't want to go to France. I'm like, why? It's a massive country and it's rock and roll. And some of the bands just didn't want to go there. And I'm like, I don't get it. So I finally got to go last year. And I headlined there as a solo artist. I did like 5 shows. And in the set, I always play 5, 6 on-target songs, and which amazes me that everybody knows the songs and they're singing the choruses, and then a couple of E-to-E tracks, and then I do a couple of classic covers too. So I've been paying a lot of thoughtful mind to the brand thing with booking. And as a solo artist, in all honesty, you reach kind of a plateau of an audience that are loyalists that will follow you. And festivals are a little hesitant unless it's a brand group thing to book. They'll book you, but they'll give you like a matinee slot, stage 3 years. You know what I mean? Daytime gigs. But I noticed watching Foreigner, which nobody's original, but they're great. And then Mike Tramp's Songs of White Lion. I've been really thinking about that. So I got in the car and I was driving back to Italy, and I started thinking, you know what, I'm going to call the manager and the agency and tell them my thought. I'm going to reform and make a Bangalore Choir record like On Target. And when I said that, they all were like, praise the Lord. This is going to open lots of doors for you. Okay. So I do that decision. I make that. I get home, and a couple of days of resting, I crack open On Target and start listening, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go back to that vibe. I don't know about you, but it's hard for me to remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday.
Exactly. That's a long time.
I had, 92 wasn't yesterday. So I started examining the sound of my voice, the songs, the choruses, the harmonies. And I went, if I'm going to do this, it has to be similar to make it real, Bangalore Choir. So I called Giles Lavery at Brave Words because my option with my other label was up, and they'd asked me to come back. And I did a festival for him last November in Germany. I said, yeah, I'll probably come back. And then I said, I know the the crew at Brave Words and what they're doing. And I know Giles really well. We've been friends a long time. I told him on my concept, and he said, do it. But it's got to be like On Target. You've got to go back to that. You are a hard rock blues singer, Dave. That's where you shine. I said, yeah, you're right. So I cracked open the old brain box and called Andy Susamil my weapon of mass production. I said, told him my concept. We started writing, and the story that I'm telling everyone in interviews is the first 4 or 5 just didn't touch at all what I was thinking. And we just kept throwing ideas back and forth. And the first one that came into fruition that grabbed me was Driver's Seat. I said, there's our slipping away, Andy. We're on the right track. So I ran over to the studio, wrote the lyrics in about 15 minutes, and I sang it. I put all the harmonies on. There it is. Demoed it. And I think that same week, we came up with Bullet Train. And then it just, I akin it to kind of like when the storm happens, the raindrops start falling big ones. And once you get on that bullet train, whatever, lack of a better word, it all starts to come down. And I knew I was on the right path. And here I am.
Here we are.
So,
and we get to talk about it track by track, which is going to be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, the first track of Act 1 is How Does It Feel? And this, and it's funny because you put it on and you're like, wow, this sounds as it should. Speaking of, going from On Target to On Target 2. I mean, even the intro has that vibe of Angel in Black, which was the opening track on Target.
It's totally intentional. I mean, I said, we need an Angel in Black. And Andy came up with it. And it's really a little too similar in the first skit. So we moved it around a bit. It was a little too samey. But that one was intentional. Yeah.
But like you said, you would swear it was Kurt Mitchell. I don't know. Did Kurt play that lead at the beginning? Initially?
No. And the funny thing about Kurt was we did the Firefest show where we did the live record, and I had to have 3 original members to be on that show. And to convince Kurt to leave the house is virtually impossible. And Danny Greenberg, rest in peace, he just passed away a few months ago, said, he's going or I'll kill him. So Kurt and I were downstairs in the basement area of that venue in Nottingham. What they do is they take the amps from the band before you and bring them downstairs, and they put the band, they swap amps so the 2 guitar players can get their head sounds. And they're jamming, and there's a crowd around Curtis and Andy. And Kurt stopped playing, and he looked at me and goes, what do you need me for? This guy's better than I am. And I said, no. He goes, that dude's insane. That guy's great. Andy was like, well, thanks, man, because he really looked up to Curtis. But no, it's Andy playing solo on that, and Andy and I wrote that together.
Yeah, and I think what I was more alluding to was that it was Kurt on Angel in Black initially. So so Andy did a great job on that solo. It sounds amazing, and but like you said, the song, that intro does it has that vibe and kind of that sound of Angel in Black, but the song stands on its own. Once it goes into the verse, it doesn't, it's reminiscent, but it's its own song.
Back to the beginning of the conversation, revisiting, it was not an easy task.
Yeah.
And we both glued our brains to that record for 2 weeks before we started getting something.
I mean, the question, how many albums have you done since On Target, if you had to guess?
40 plus.
Yeah.
40 plus. It's nuts. I mean, and that goes back to the vocal comment I made. There seemed to be a plethora of singers, including myself, who got stuck in this Whitesnake vibe in the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Everybody wanted to emulate Coverdale and try to find that 1987 record, song and Still of the Night. And we all got stuck in that. And it just became dreary. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. This Deep Purple, Whitesnake, Hammond organ, 1 guitar thing. I got burned out. I mean, you probably remember. It seemed like every band that came out sounded like Whitesnake.
That's a hard one to try and duplicate, though. Like Whitesnake's Whitesnake, right? You know what I mean? Like to do it, like that 1987 album is kind of legendary now.
It's I mean, Is This Love still that is so good. There's so many great songs. I mean, they even remade Fool for Your Love Again.
Exactly.
I mean, that song had been re-recorded 50 times.
Exactly. And I mean, John Sykes was a major factor in that 87 album as well. I mean,
he wrote everything.
That's right.
He wrote it all.
And those riffs. And
he sang all the demos, and the guy had an incredible voice. He just sang everything and handed it to Dave and said, this. He wrote Slide It In, too. I mean, he was a major factor in Whitesnake.
Absolutely.
There's big success.
Absolutely, he was. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of his guitar, and I'm a huge fan,
Me too.
and a huge fan of the Blue Murder stuff. I thought, it wasn't as commercial as Whitesnake, unfortunately, but the vibe was there, and it was,
Imagine if Ray Gillen had actually joined the band. That was in the works.
And that would have been crazy. I mean, there are some demos with Ray Gillen, but they're not very good, so you don't really get an idea of what it was going to sound like, right? Which is unfortunate.
Sadly, Ray's health was really failing at that time. When Ray was on, because Bangalore did a lot of shows with that and Ray would watch me every night and just hug me. Oh man, you're great. Oh my God, and you could tell he wasn't feeling well. He wasn't looking well. But that's how I got to know Greg and the guys and Jake. And we ended up doing a bunch of club shows together in California. But yeah, I've always admired Greg. He was one of a kind.
Now getting to Driver's Seat, which you kind of already alluded to, which was the second single, right? It was the second release.
Yeah. Right now it's number 2 at 97. We were number 1 for 6 consecutive weeks at 97 Bulletin. And Stryper had done it with 4 weeks, but we lasted 6. And Driver's Seat popped up as the second single and came into medium rotation and then jumped in at like number 9, and now it's number 2.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I have not had this kind of radio. Even KNAC is back now, and a lot of stations are blasting it. And today I just had some special thing from another Nocturner station. I think it's South American. It's number 1. I'm like, wow.
That's so awesome. Good for you.
Just
I'm happy for you, man. That's amazing. That is so great.
Thank you.
It's great to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's one of those things, like after all these years and you make this, On Target 2 thing and you come out with it and it's doing well, which is probably beyond your expectations.
Beyond target. It's like, I take none of this for granted. I knew it was really good. There were 26 songs recorded, and trying to hash out and cut. I've got the other 10 here, that could have gone on record if there's enough space. But if I do act 3 and 4, there's always space for that, right? So
yeah, I hope you do.
I got lucky. Sometimes you get lucky, It just and I kudos to Andy. We're a really viable, strong songwriting team. He and I, we can't talk to each other for 2 years, or not can't. We just don't. And then we kick it off. And it's like yesterday since we've seen each other.
That's awesome. Now, track 3 is Love and War.
Yeah.
It starts off a little slower than the previous track, but it's not a slow song. But the drums seem to drive this track. The chorus is really catchy. I love how the verses move. They almost sway. It has like this back and forth type of movement to it.
Well, credit to Mario Percadani, who I know on this record, you'll see a few guys that are co-writing with me. I knew, I'm going to reach out to Mario as well, because he gets me as a singer. When Mario's difficult to work with singing, because he'll rip me to shreds. his ear is so good. He'll get into harmonizing quarter notes and those weird Eagles harmonies that are kind of ghosted that you don't hear out loud, but they're there. That's what makes the chorus so fat. He's really good at that. And my ear doesn't do more than the thirds and the fifths. You know,
Right.
he can squeeze in between and go, try this, and it'll take me hours. But I wrote that with him. I wrote three that's on this record with Mark.
Well, and then there's that instrumental section,
Mm-hmm.
and then the guitars totally move well. They sound great.
He plays all the solos on that.
Yeah, and there's one thing I notice about this album is with the guitar tracks themselves, the tones change, which is great. So you get these different guitar tones that they aren't blending all together. It's like a mismatch of different things, which adds so much color to the songs.
One thing about that, with what you're saying, is that Eric Uris and Diego Pires, who play in Warlord, I specifically knew that if I just stuck with Andy and Mario doing all the rhythms and stuff, that I would end up with that same color. So them being my touring guitar team, Eric and Diego, I called them and said, hey, I want you both to play 3 tracks each of the same rhythm behind with their rhythms, but put your colors on it. So you got, the split. You've got the left, right, and the middle, like the 70s and the early 80s surround. So I'm glad you noticed that. Because tonality to me lifts songs.
It totally does. I mean, as you probably know, I listen to a lot of music. So I mean, those kind of things really pop out to me, especially as a guitar player as well. But when I hear different tones like that a lot of newer bands guitar is not important anymore, it seems. The guitar tones and the guitar and the changes and the differences in guitars. I'm speaking more.
They don't. It's more of a modern thing with the younger players. I mean, there's guys like will say, I can't play like those kids on YouTube, but it's not about that. It's about the song. And I specifically went after the tube sound. I'm not a big digital guy, but I live in the digital era where you can get that hiss mastering and mixing, which I don't like, but that's what we live with and deal with. But I told all the guitar players, play through tube amps, please. And Andy runs like 3 of them together, a Bogner and an Engel and a Marshall Flexi, all channeled into one plug, where all 3 heads are operating at the same time. I don't know how he does it. I'm not a nerd like that. And then the Strats, we use a lot of Stratocasters. We use Gibson Les Pauls, vintage guitars, old guitars, that have that solid, they have that character. Each guitar is built for that song. So those guys will go, I think I'll play the red 70 Strat on this, or I'll play the 80 standard on that. It calls for that, Whereas a lot of these 7 and 8 string guitar player guys are tuning in such bizarre tunings and going through processed digital amps. Like you say, it becomes kind of flat.
It does flatten. It's like a mash. It's you know what I mean? It's just there.
It's squeezed to death. It's overcompressed, and they're brilliant players, a lot of them, but it just doesn't tickle them. I just listened to live Stevie Ray Vaughan waiting for our interview. I found a live 84 recording of one of his shows. I was blown away by one guitar player on Lenny the Strat. I'm just like, oh my God, how does it sound that big, one man?
It's so crazy, right? When you think of that, and I mean, the one difference I noticed too in a lot of the '80s players is the vibrato. Even when they play chords, how a lot of the 80s guys like Lynch and DeMartini, they would take variations of guitar chords and they would bend it a little bit, and it had stylistically, that became their sound. And that's the difference I hear in the guitar players they aren't that way, but that was the 80s, right? And that's how that was their thing,
but
right?
The 80s guys came from Mick Rouse and Jimmy Page and Hendrix and Jeff Beck. They listened to those chord voices, and they knew that color behind that vocal line like I said earlier, it lifts that, whatever that word is, it makes it happen. That's just my opinion.
I mean, and that's my opinion too. I just, to me, as the guitar was just almost as important as the vocal, right? It's just to make
Absolutely.
up these songs, right? And the drums
bands,
and the bass.
Lead singer, lead guitar player.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, all right, this one's cool. I never meant to. I love the premise of the chorus, right? Because you ask, I never meant, the first time I listened to it, I see the title, like, you never meant to what? So that was...
It's a very personal song for me. I wrote that with Mario. We actually had it laying around for a couple of years with me just humming the melody. Him and I worked out. I went through a really terrible divorce in 97. And as many people know that have been divorced, one side takes the kids, goes and lives with their parents or their family in another state, and they poison the children's minds about their father. Yeah. And I have a real hard time maintaining a relationship with my kids because they were indoctrinated with it. Yeah, I was hardworking. I retired from music. I spent 7 days a week breaking my back, thinking that's what a man had to do. And I kind of, not neglected, but I had this mission in my mind. I'm not going to make it as a rock and roll star. I got to make it as the biggest construction guy in town and farmer, right? So they put this poisoning in their minds where as your kids get older, they start to question you. Was he really like that? Who is my dad? So for my oldest daughter, I dedicated the song to her, and it also my youngest daughter. It's written about I never meant to hurt you. It's just how everything comes about and creates its own little world. And my oldest daughter broke down in tears. I sent it to her when it was mixed, and she called me and said, "Dad," she just sobbed. "I get it." And I went, "That's my gift to you." So for any of you guys out there or women that are going through that, I think you can grasp what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I hope, I mean, we did talk about David Coverdale, but in some ways there was a little bit of Coverdale. That's what I got, of a type of approach to this.
Thank you. I mean, that's a compliment. I mean, Is This Love, the way he sang that. I mean,
that's exactly.
I can sing every word right now that it's ingrained in my head, but that was such a beautiful song. I Want to Know What Love Is. There's certain songs, Toto, that they're timeless. There's just something about that chord, that melody, that lyric. You try to say it all. And like I told you last time, I'm a big Tom Petty fan. And my new flavor of the day is Blackberry Smoke. I went to see them here in Italy. And I kind of sat back in Italy going, a bunch of guys from Georgia. And they're kind of the new Tom Petty to me. They're organic. They're simplistic. They play a lot of cover songs. I went, they're carrying the torch. The songs, the band, you can feel it's a band. And Tom can say more in 3 words than I can say in 50. I mean, I won't back down. I mean, the simple, don't keep it simple, stupid, basically, But that's a treasure for me on the record. Yeah. Yeah,
it's an amazing song, and it's funny that you mentioned Tom Petty, because I feel the same way, and I do love Blackberry Smoke, and Pretty Little Lie is one of my favorite songs. It's so well written, so well put together.
Charlie Starr has got something in his DNA that he knows how to write a lyric. And, he's a big Petty fan. I watched him and went, a little tiny guy, but he is like a giant on stage. And I was listening to, all the hits. I actually do acoustic shows with Andy, and we play a lot of Blackberry Smoke songs. And the Germans and Europeans, they go cuckoo when we play that song.
Oh, they do, eh? I mean, that's amazing. I do, in my acoustic thing, I do Pretty Little Lie because I love the approach and I love the Volca. And I mean, cross all the T's and dot all the I's. Like how he fit that in there is like, it's so brilliant to me. And that kind of songwriting, it's like, it's so clever, right?
For me, when I'm writing a song, I'll have the riff like a chorus, and I'm a hack guitar player, or my old upright piano over here. I'll play that over and over and over, and I'll have people in the house say, "Could you please stop? Change, make something out of that." And then one day I'll be walking the dog, and then I'll come in, I'll just go, think, "Oh, there it is." You know how that is as a player. You just stay on this over and over and over, and then all of a sudden that lyric starts to make sense. Because a lot of times I'll write the lyrics to a song and go, what am I doing? And then I'll sing it and listen back to it and go, oh, it makes sense now. It's a weird, beautiful thing about music that it's not meant, I think, to make sense. And then when you finish a song, if it's good, it makes sense. It's a beautiful thing.
I always attribute that to like Steven Tyler. There's certain stuff that he wrote that makes no sense, but it fits and it works and it's cool, right?
Yeah, I mean it's just so rhythmic. It's James Brown on steroids, really.
Exactly.
He's a drummer actually was what he was, but he sings like a drummer plays, and it's so on time and in the pocket. Plus his vibe, his look, everything about it. I mean, imagine Steven Tyler, like, let's say, hi, I'm Steven Tyler, International Harbor Service Representative. Not going to happen. I'm Steven Tyler. And he was bred to be that. You know, I've met him, and I just looked, wow, this guy could be nothing more than a rock star. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I mean, you think back in the 80s when, you know, like when they did Walk This Way with Run DMC, and you're like how putting those two together, it was like you're talking about this rhythmic thing, and vocally you couldn't have asked for a better song to use to mix rap with rock because of the way his stylings are.
The Kolodner or whoever it was who put that together and Tim Collins in their head, great move. Rap was really exploding. Aerosmith was kind of fading. They needed something to reignite. And that, you know, it was just perfect.
It was right timing and the right song, and you know, and you're right. Whoever did
I'm hoping that I Never Meant To would be my crossover major radio station song, because you know Mario comes from Toto. He's a Lukather fanatic, so hopefully that song, which I'm creating a video for on tour when I go out at the end of this month. I was going to do it in France last week, but you know, things happen where there's no time for me to find a nice church area or some lonely person's homeless guy sitting on a bench or somebody crying at a train station. I was looking for that in black and white. So hopefully I can capture it on this upcoming tour with Alcatraz and Girls School and make that my big ballad video. That's
that'd be so cool. I look for, hopefully that happens and I'll get to see it. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, the next track, I'm Headed For, which again is the same type of lyric thing where you have to finish the sentence almost, which I love.
I got little black crows in that one, and I wrote that with Mario. We wrote 3 that went on the record. You mentioned Love and War, Never Meant To, and I'm Headed For. I completely blew my voice out, and by singing I Never Meant To that night, and I had finished I'm Headed For, and he said, let's do this one. Let's finish. I said, I can't sing. My voice is gone. It takes a lot to sing a ballad, right? You know, you have multiple takes to get that vibe. And he goes, man, you when your voice is trash, you're awesome. Do it. So I did it in like 1 take, maybe 2.
That's awesome.
And I thought, this won't make it. And it starts off with the same chord as Motley Crue. Whatever that's. It's like Kickstart My Heart or something. It's the same chord. I realized it. Yeah. It's just, I was like, oops. But it wasn't intentional. But then it goes into And then it's got that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that finger picking thing. That you know, like that sounds so cool.
That's an old Strat, and it just. I'm headed for, basically it means I'm getting the hell out of it because, the road has lost its role. But, I'm headed for it. You know what I mean? I'm getting out of here. Yeah. And it's just one of those songs, like I said, if it's right, it's right. You can feel it on the floor. And when you look through the glass and a guy like Mario or Ricardo are recording me, and if they're scrolling through their phone, it's not getting them. And I say, how was that? I ain't buying it, Reece. That ain't Reece. Sing it again. And when I get it, their eyes are looking at me and their heads are doing this, or another person in the room, they're kind of going, wow, that's pretty good. If it's moving them, I feel it, they feel it.
That's cool. Yeah, and again, that with that finger picking, that adds another element to the guitar. That's another different tone that is in there, which sounds phenomenal. And something, Mario. Yeah, and I mean that was brilliant. And it's funny because it says I'm headed for a second chance, and I kind of thought, is that an homage to On Target 1 into 2?
Yeah, maybe. I'm always looking for a break, and like we all are in our lives, and I maybe subconsciously, I get away from an album after it's done for a couple of weeks, and then I'll turn it on and crank it and go, not bad, that works. Yeah. But I think maybe you made a good point there. It's good observation.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that you also mentioned the rear view mirror, looking in the, which is amazing
leaving it
too.
All behind.
And that those lyrics, getting back to Tom Petty, that's prolific. That is, you know what I mean?
If you're not moving forward, man, what are you doing? If something's stale and it sinks, you go to where the roses smell better. If we're blessed enough to find a partner in life that we can actually truly be in love with and get through things with, play with people that, like Andy and I, that have this relationship that musically blossoms. If you're blessed to have that and you've got those stinkers behind you, you don't dump it, man. Life's short.
That's true. And I mean, you and Andy have worked together and done some amazing music together, because as I mentioned before, that Cacophony of Souls album is, and I said that in our last interview, how much I loved that album and how much I played it.
I every show I do, I've still got copies of it laying around. I'll put it in merch. They're all gone. People will come up to me with that record and say, this is my favorite. Blacklist, not so much. And I agree.
Blacklist was good.
Yeah, but it was such a departure from Cacophony that was one of those records that Andy and I I think we wrote it in about 2 weeks. And I think there's an element to that. The energy, when it happens and it's there, the magic is real. Blacklist was kind of thought through, and I was writing with the bass player, and he was unsure of himself. I said, man, you got songwriting talent. This is going to work. But I had to kind of babysit him and tell him, hey, this is good. Don't quit talking bad about it. I'm making it happen. There were some good songs on it. American Dream, Another Life, Another Time is another great song. And Andy and I go, we're going to play that in the acoustics, which is what we already have. And people, they all know it. I mean, that one, people thought my brother had died, the guy that's in the video. But no, it's just take me back home, another life, another time, which our lives were technically before we aged and have gone through this process. I'm not a baby, whoa, I told you that. I mean, I've done some of it. Whoa, will I believe your lies? And you're like, yeah, that was kind of called for in the 80s. And I put some of those elements in Rapid Fire Succesion because I had to. There's a time and place.
Well, exactly right.
Let me write that down. There's a time and place. That's a good one.
There's a time. That's a good word. That's great. Now you did talk about Bullet Train, which was the first single. And I need to mention this because what I loved about the first two singles is they more or less kind of make mention of driving or things that drive you, a train, a car, that kind of thing, which which I thought was a really good way of approaching it as the first two singles, because it's kind of a theme almost. And you know, a Bangalore is, you know, as we had talked about before, like it all kind of goes together in some way.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know. Like I said, when it clicked, and you know when the song's right for what you're trying to achieve, you know. And the bullet train to nowhere. I've never been to Asia, so one of my bucket lists to go play Japan. And
the bullet train.
My friends tell me about the bullet trains, how amazing it is, Japanese culture. I want to get on one and go 250 miles an hour to the next city to play. You know, that's how you travel when you play there. So
yeah.
Unless you're the Rolling Stones, you got your own plane, but you know, and you fly 20 minutes and you're there. You know, but Accept told me a really funny story about the bullet train when they first started playing Japan. They said all the fans would be standing at the platform. They'd get on the bullet train, they'd be mobbed, and then they'd get to the next city, and you'd see water buffalo and rice paddies and all that stuff. And when you would park the train and you'd get out, those same people would be standing there with the same posters. They're like, how did they get here before we did? It was
That's
one of these
crazy.
weird magic. Yeah. Wolf looked
That's
at me.
That's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Exactly. And he goes, I go, come on. And then maybe they all kind of look the same. He goes, no, dude. Same photo, same clothes, same girl, same guy, standing there screaming. And I signed everything they had, and I signed it again. He goes, there was nothing in between those towns but mountains and water buffalo and rice paddies. How do they do it? Dirt bikes? I don't know.
That's crazy. That's an amazing story. I can't imagine that.
That's what he told me. I was just like, wow, I got to go there, man. He's like,
oh, crazy. Man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, so Swimming with the Shark. This title captured me immediately. And no one wants to swim with a shark. It's, you know, like, I don't want to take that chance.
You know, anybody I talk to says when they swim in the ocean, they're always worried about what's under them. You know, this is cool, but you know, there's some giant creatures that eat people. You know, but that song I wrote with Marco Pittore. Well, I should give him most of the credit. But during the COVID lockdown, I did a lot of demo projects to survive. And he sent me that song. It was a punk rock song. And I'm like, okay, I got to pay the electric bill. I'll sing it. And I met a girl, right? And I didn't like it at all. So, again, Giles Lavery fell in love with it for some reason. He said, Dave, if you make that a Bangalore Choir song, heavy it up, maybe like Steve Stevens, put something to it, spice it up like a Van Halen tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, because it's about some psycho girl from Greece that he meets in San Francisco. And I went, I'm not doing that. Kind of like when they presented Loaded Gun to me, you know, for the Bangalore record, the first one. Kurt said, I'll kill myself before I ever play that song. I said, we got to do it. Corporate said it's a hit. And it was, but it was one of those things. And I was like, I don't want to do this. So I give credit to Diego Pires, my alternate lead guitar player live. I sent it to him because we tried to make it modern. Andy and I, we just could not get it. It's not us. So Diego comes up with that riff. And then I said, Andy, we need a middle eight section, a break in the middle. And he came up with that. So we re-recorded it and made it kind of our own little set. But the funny thing about that song is, as much as I disliked it, I didn't really want to talk about it much. But in Germany, it's like, everybody loves it. And in Denmark, it's like, this is our crowd song. Play it. You got to put it in the set. And I'm like, wow. You know, we don't know. We don't know as the artist what works, right? But the audience does. So I was wrong.
Wow. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the it being a punk rock song, because when I first heard it, I was like, this verse is a little bit different than what it was. I guess it kind of does have that power punk pop kind of verse to it.
Before. It was the Romantics. It was new wave punk. It was And it actually, when I did it with him, the original version, he's from Switzerland, it went right to the top 10 in Swiss radio. He called me one day, he goes, dude, they're playing it at full rotation. I go, shut up. And he goes, no, man, the people love it. I'm like, wow. Okay.
Cool. Okay. Well, I mean, I love the song and I love the chorus. I think the verse works really well going into the chorus. So,
yeah.
So I mean,
I'm starting to fall in love with it because of people like you. It's like, maybe I should pull my skull out of my derriere and pay attention to what people are saying.
I mean, another thing that I like about it is the free-flowing, the chords are just more or less, you're hearing those chords in the chorus as well, right? They're just, you're just ringing them out. And that really, it let your the vocal move into the song, right?
I had to be Dave on it to make it go on this record. I should have. And I had no clue where to go. I mean, Ricardo looked at me and said, are you kidding me? And I sang it probably 10 different times before I got the one you're talking about. Because it was tough to get my head out of the funk version to make a Dave version.
But at the end of the day, though, that title really works for the album too. The song's great, but the title too, it's one of those, it's kind of what you would expect on the album, is that type of title, right?
And credit to Giles, because, his job, one thing about Giles Lavery is he's a master at reinvention. He's not a great, I wouldn't say knowledgeable about chord structures and stuff, but he's got a brain that here's the bigger picture, what it could be. And bands that were really big in the 80s, he's got this knack for bringing life back to what the bands that should have had that exposure. Kudos to Giles, man. I'll be on tour with him end of the month. He sings for Alcatraz. I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
Right. That's right. Yeah, he is the singer in Alcatraz, and they have a new album out. That's right. And they're on Brave Words.
And Girls School, I know all of them. And
cool.
It'll be comfortable as far as, everybody not wanting to murder each other after the third day and everybody's exhausted. So I'm looking forward to it.
Good. That'll be awesome. I love how you say that. Not everybody wanting to murder each other after 3 days.
Well, it doesn't matter.
That's just the way it is.
We're not going to be a taxi service. Everybody stays in the venue because we're sharing backline. So everybody has to stay to the end of the night. But after about 3 days, I'm on first, Bangalore Choir, then it's Alcatraz. That some of the guys are going to go, I'm really tired. Could you take me to my room? I can't watch the headliner one more night. I need to sleep. Nope, you got to stay. So then the tension starts building. And
that's a little
can
tough,
you take me? And it's like, we've already had that regimented military. Here's how it's going to go, but I'll guarantee you after 3 or 4 shows, chaos will ensue.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so now the last track of Act 1. We've made it through the first act, The Light. This one really surprised me, actually. It goes in a different territory. Again, this is prolific songwriting as far as I'm concerned. It kind of has it has an Americana vibe almost to it.
I went out to see Blackberry Smoke and the Americana Tom Petty thing. And I wanted to write a song about me as a kid, dreaming about the big lights. The light has died on the stage tonight. Basically, it's the story of me with a curtain rod in Oklahoma while I'm in my grandmother's bedroom in front of a full-length mirror, pretending I'm Conway Twitty or George Jones, lip-syncing to her 78 speed records, and me posing. If you read the lyric, it talks about that, and then having the candle lit because you live in kind of a small house on a farm and you can't really turn lights on. People are sleeping, writing words, Then you get out, it says in the second verse, 1,000 faces I pretend to know. Because, you're in the schmooze world, right, in Hollywood. Hey, how you doing? Great to see you again. You can't remember what their name is or what band they're in. And then at the end of it, it says, I'm no legend, but at least I'm free, I think. One horse town I was meant to be. That's the end of it. I gave it a shot. Didn't happen. Went back to where I started from. And I told Andy in the process of recording, the chorus was really strong, but I said, Andy, that needs slide. Put a slide into that. And he goes, that's a good idea. And then that gives us that Americana, Macon, Georgia, Allman Brothers, Skinner kind of feel. And it just lifted that chorus.
And that adds a whole different depth to the album for the end of the act. And which I think is brilliant. And I'm excited to talk about Act 2 because there was a big surprise on Act 2 that I did not see coming when I listened to the album. We're not going to say it, but that was a big surprise.
That was another Giles move that I absolutely fought tooth and nail not to do, only on one condition: if I could make it better, because I didn't like the original.
Okay, and I'm going to tell you it is better. It is better.
Thank you. And we'll get to that on our next little gab fest. But there's a story behind that as well.
Good. That was quite the surprise. I was like, hey, wait a sec, because you look at the album titles, you look at the track titles, and you're like, okay, yeah, I see this song, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And you're going through it, and I'm like, wait a second.
Yep, I know that song.
So that was great. But we'll get to talk about that in Act 2. But David, that was really great, and I am looking forward to doing Act 2.
Me too.
But before I let you go, is there anything else you want to mention?
I just returned from France this week. I did 4 shows there. This fan base is building as every time I go. I'm embarking on a tour with Alcatraz Girls School beginning the 25th of November in Belgium. We end on the 7th in Germany, in Dortmund, I think. It's a grueling tour. There's one day off in Czech Republic. It should be quite interesting, the adventure, because there's 2 bands with 15 people. I have a smoking band. The members are my original rhythm section from my solo group, Nalo Savinelli on drums, Ricardo DiMarosi on bass. I got Eric Uris playing guitar and Diego Pires playing guitar. Niccolo Savinelli is kind of off doing his own thing from Baptized by Fire. I'm in the process of him and I reconnecting and maybe bringing him in. And then there's big news that I'll be announcing, hopefully in the next week or so. There's 3 bands, and I'm one of them, American bands doing a U.S. tour, middle of February throughout the month of March. Pounding the United States. And all 3 of these bands kind of resurged. You know them both. And if I can confirm it next time we talk, I'll announce it. But we're ebbing closer. We have 5 offers on the table right now, but it's like Salt Lake and then Denver and then down to Phoenix. You can't survive playing one night a week. We're trying to fill those pockets on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So we're in the process of doing one of those grueling tours, which you have to do these days just to keep it moving.
So that'll be on the coast, like kind of the United States coast almost, like, so you won't be coming up closer to Canada probably.
Well, if I make it into Detroit or something like that in Detroit, I'm jumping over to Windsor and I'm going into Canada. The thing about this record that's blowing my mind is that now agents that were like, we're interested in them, but now they're like, we'd like to Montreal, we'd like to Factory, maybe we could do Toronto. And then I've got all of the eastern area of the United States, like from Ohio down into Florida, Virginia, West Virginia, because of the radio thing buzz that's happening there. They're really involved in backing those venues and sponsoring shows. So the only problem I have right now is that I'm scheduled for April, May in Europe, and then I've got festivals in July. And so it's a nice problem to have to navigate, but I will be coming to America with this thing. But it has to be logistically reasonable, and everybody's aware of that, and the other bands too. We can't just play 2 days a week and then sit around in a hotel and pay for it and wait for the.
Well, I look forward. I hope that happens. I hope it. I really do hope it happens, and I have a good feeling who those other bands might be, but I'm not going to say.
Yeah, you know who they are, and
I do.
We're all getting a big push right now, and there's a lot of interest. And Brave Words, to their credit, have done a fabulous job with this record. I mean, Brandvold is really. I mean, that guy tore me to pieces about my social media access. He says, "You suck. You have no clue." Because all you guys after your 40s are clueless on how this works. Let me explain, Dave. So the outreach that I've learned from him on how to play on this silly computer has really helped me. And he's pushing for this tour that I'm talking about because it benefits the label as well. So, yeah, I just spoke to him a couple hours ago and said, let's tie this thing up. Because I can't sit around and wait for another 2 months. And then, because, there's a 6-month lead time for sure, usually. And yeah, I should have some pretty cool news here coming up. And then we can talk about Act 2. And Tyson, you're awesome as always. Great questions. And you're knowledgeable about music, which really I like. You're a guitar player. You understand songs.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, David. It's always a pleasure. So I am super happy for you. I cannot tell you that enough. I just want this to be as successful as possible. So, and it sounds like it's moving in the right direction. So we will talk probably in a couple months.
Yeah.
If this thing happens, we'll want to do that before you go away, hopefully, before we'll do Act 2, before you have to come to America. But I will get a hold of Brandvold in a month or so, and we'll schedule it.
Well, I'm all in, man.
Okay, man. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. And
I had one more question for you. What is that gold record behind you?
That is Accept the Eat the Heat.
It is. Oh, cool.
That's my European gold record. And the story behind that is I was promoting a record. I had 2 records I'd done with Greg Chason from Badlands, Circle of Silence. And I'm in Metal Hammer headquarters in Munich. And I look on the wall, I was in Norway. And I look on the wall, and there's a gold record for Eat the Heat. I go, where'd you get that? He goes, record company sent it to me. I said, well, I never got one. And he goes,
we did talk about this before, and I've never seen it.
So I called the label, and they said, yeah, for $600, we'll mail you one. I'm like, wait a minute. So a fan who worked at a label showed up at a gig on the Udo tour and said, I have a gift for you. I'll bring it inside in this big, heavy box. And he unwrapped it. That's the gold record for sales all over Europe that attained gold. That's like Scandinavia, Germany, everything.
That's amazing. I'm glad I got to see that. That's so cool.
I treasure it.
That is amazing. Well, that's a great way to end the interview. So thank you. And we'll talk again. Okay, David, have a great night. Okay.
Brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.
Say hi to your kids and your family, and thank you for everything.
Will do. You as well. Thank you. Okay.
Ciao.
Ciao.